Jai Jirendra, everyone. On behalf of Jaina, I would like to welcome you all for the day 7th of Digambar Paryushan. And as we know, Manish Bhai is explaining us very well about the universal law. So I would like to welcome Manish Bhai for the day 7th lecture. Um, yeah, Manish Bhai, please go ahead. Thank you. Jai Jirendra.
Sorry. Thank you, Jai Jinendra. Day 7 of the Parishan Parv. It's such a beautiful time of the year, and it slips by so quickly. Just 10 days and it's gone. You're preparing for another Parishan. Om Namah Siddhebhya. Namo Aryantanam, Namo Siddhadam, Namo Airiyanam, Namo Vajjayanam, Namo Noe Sabbasanam. Yeso Panch Namo Yaro, Sabba Pavat Papanasame, Mangaladam Chasapisi, Patlam Pavayam. Khame me Sabba Jiva, Sabve Jiva Kamantume, Mitti me Sabba Bhuesu, Eram Macham Nakina. Mangalam Bhagavan Viro, Mangalam Gautama Prabhu, Mangalam Kundu Kundadyo, Jaina Dharmostu Mangalam, Arihanta Mangalam Nityam, Siddha Jagati Mangalam, Mangalam Sadhave Sarve, Jaina Dharmostu Mangalam, Sarva Mangala Mangalyam, Sarva Kalyana Karikam, Pradhanam Sarva Dharmanam, Jainam Jaitu Shasanam, Jainam Jaitu Shasanam. Jainam Jaitu Shasanam. Namo Janana. So we are talking of the universal law and all that it entails to attain Samyak Darshan. As we've discussed earlier, Samyak Darshan is the visa for moksha. Therefore, all the efforts we do on this earth should be to attain Samyak Darshan. That should be the key goal of our lives. Very often we discuss this, with friends and acquaintances and this. You ask them, what do you do? Someone say, I'm a doctor, I'm an engineer, I'm a chartered accountant, I'm a bookseller, I sell grains, I'm in the share market. Is that the primary purpose of your life? Work. Should your primary purpose of life not be to attain eternal happiness? There should be a side job, being a chartered accountant or a professional or a doctor, a lawyer, engineer. This is a side job. Your main job is to transcend worldly life. That should be your main job. Everything else is transient. It is secondary. The most important thing is to transcend all of these worldly, sorry. The most important thing is to transcend all these worldly accomplishments and focus on the one thing that matters the most. Samyak Darshan. Without Samyak Darshan, there is nothing. You have no visa to go to moksha. You're stuck in sansar, and sansar is the key of unhappiness. Sansar is your guarantee of misery, sorrow, unfulfilled expectations, disappointments, treachery, being the subject of violence. All of that is sansar. Anyone who says that I am happy in sansar is lying. Sansar is, Tirthankars have answered this question in the Vachanas, in the Samosha. The Tirthankars have said that if you look at the sum total of happiness that you've enjoyed in sansar, in all your Ananta lives, it is less than 48 minutes. Therefore, there is no happiness in samsara. There's only delusion, disappointment, and misery. And the only way out of samsara is Samyak Darshan. Therefore, our focus must always be on Samyak Darshan. Like I said yesterday, there's a thermometer to check how deeply enmeshed you are in samsara. The thermometer is very simple. The thermometer is, what do I like? Hame kya pasand hai? So, you have to understand and ask yourself this question very honestly. What is it do I like? What do I seek in life? What do I really, really, really want? If I was talking to my best friend and there was no one else overhearing us, what would I say if he asked me, what do you want? I would tell you the truth, right? I want this. So ask yourself and answer honestly. You want happiness? You want luxury? Or do you want spiritual fulfillment? Most of us will say, oh, well, I want a better house. As they say in America, you can never be too rich or too thin. So most of us will say, what I would like a better house, a larger income, better fitness for my body, better investments. I want my wife to listen to me. I want my children to listen to me. I want my parents to stay in good health for a very, very long time. I want my siblings to love me. I want my country to prosper. How much of this is in our hands? Is any of this in our hands? And is any of this going to help us in the next life? In the life after that? And the thing is, whatever you do, there will be a karmic consequence. Nothing you do will be without a karmic consequence. So you have to think properly about what you're looking for and weigh it in terms of its karmic cost. You have a cost-benefit analysis. So if you're seeking something, assess what you will gain when you get that thing and what you will lose, what it costs you. Because you cannot suppress desire. You cannot, it doesn't work that way. It will rise again like a spring. Religion is not about suppression. Vairagya is about transcension, transcending that desire. How do you do that? You do that by contemplating it, by examining the consequences. And think about it. Think about what it will gain you and what you stand to lose when you get it. You asked me today, when I was a child, I loved playing cowboys and Indians. We had these play guns, mock guns. We used to use a gold takia, this large pillow that we have, a bolster. We used to sit on, my sister and I would sit on these bolsters and pretend they were our horses, and we play with guns and play cowboys and stuff. I've transcended that. At a certain age, maybe 6, 7, 8 years of age, that was the acme of my worldly happiness. I don't seek that now. I've transcended it. As a child, I loved in my junior school, I would love running in the playground. We had a sand pit, playing and making a fortress in the sand, making some kind of little mountain in the sand and digging a tunnel, burrowing it and digging a tunnel inside your fortress. That is my height of happiness. It was the highlight of my school day. Do I want to do that now? No. Why? I've not suppressed that desire. I've outgrown it. In the same way, I will have to outgrow all my worldly desires. There is no other way. You will have to outgrow them. Because as long as you're bound by them, you have lost your prerogative. Because all your worldly desires are tied down by other people and other things. They're not yours. You have no control over them. Because if I want wealth, it depends on my karma, right? If I don't have the right karmas, if I don't have enough punya, how will I get the wealth? We may think that we get wealth out of hard work. Hard work is absolutely necessary and important. No one's denying that. But have you looked at a mazdoor, at a laborer? Do we work harder than a laborer? No way. We work far less than a laborer. But we make more money than a laborer, right? Even booksellers make more money than a laborer. Why? It's punya. You get money because of punya. So, when you seek a worldly desire, like if I want to own a Porsche car, if I don't have the punya, I will not have the money. So it is an external circumstance. I want my wife to obey me. How will that happen? She's another person. She's a different human being. She has her own free will. I cannot invade that free will. If I want my children to be obedient, will they be? They're individuals. I am basing my happiness on something that is beyond my control. How stupid is that? How unrealistic is that expectation? I am expecting someone else to act in a manner that I want them to act in. What are the chances? What is the likelihood? Because you are depending on someone else for your own happiness. This is the guarantee of disaster. It won't work that way. Because it doesn't work that way. That's not how things work. So it's only when you take the responsibility for your happiness on yourself, that is the only time you will gain a modicum of happiness and a modicum of control over your own thoughts and your own emotions. And when does that happen? When you stop desiring things that are non-self objects, that have nothing to do with you. Because that's not in your control. That is beyond your control. Only those things that are in your control are your own emotions, your own thoughts, your own perceptions, your own desires, your own expectations. That's the only thing you have control over, nothing else. We call them adhyavsai, we call them bhav, we call them ichha, apeksha, expectation. These we have control over. So we work on these. And how does one work on these? Is it some random concept? No, it's not. It has been explained very beautifully and eloquently by our Tirthankars and by our Acharyas and our Munis. They've explained it in very simple, very beautiful, very elegant terms. It's called the Bara Bhavanas or the 12 contemplations. Each of this contemplation is a gem. And when you continuously reflect on these contemplations, reflect on these bhavanas, you will find that you're able to shape your own thoughts, because it helps you examine the contours of all your thoughts and helps you reprioritize. Because right now, all our priorities are messed up. We are looking for happiness through external substances. And external substances cannot give you happiness because they're not in your hands. Happiness means predictability. It means control. It means being able to switch something on and switch it off. It's like you switch on the air conditioner when you're feeling hot. You switch it off when you're feeling cold. It doesn't work like that with human beings. Or does it? You can't switch on human beings. You can't switch them off. You cannot switch off external circumstances. They are beyond your control. Yesterday, I went to buy tomatoes, and they were 20 rupees a kilo. I was so happy. But 1 month ago, tomatoes cost 150 rupees a kilo. I was unhappy. Now, how stupid am I to base my happiness on something that is beyond my control? It's the market forces. When there is shortage, you'll have to buy them at 150 rupees a kilo. And when there is enough production, you buy it at 20 rupees a kilo. So I am basing my happiness on market forces. That is a formula for misery and disappointment. Because things will never go your way consistently. And the 12 bhavnas, the 12 bhavnas teach you that it doesn't matter. You are beyond all this. It's not important. What is important is your own thoughts, perceptions, your own views, your own attitude, your own approach to life. The 12 bhavnas will help you. Sorry. The 12 bhavnas help you shape your views and your thoughts on life. And that's why they're so deeply and extremely important. So let's study these 12 bhavnas. The first bhavna, or anupreksha, or contemplation or reflection, these are all synonyms. Don't get caught up in synonyms. It's not the words that matter. It's the understanding they convey. That's what matters. The first bhavna is the anitya bhavna, impermanence. We know that whatever happens on earth, whatever circumstances we have that occur in our life are transient. They're impermanent. Whether you like a certain circumstance or dislike it, it's never going to be with you permanently. Therefore, don't be attached to them. Don't develop a sense of mindness with them, because they're not yours. I was fortunate and blessed that I could spend 42 years of my life with my father. 44 years of my life with my father. And 49 years of my life with my mother. I was blessed. But they passed away one day. They're no more in my life. I may carry a photograph of them. It's here with me. I love them and I carry a photograph of them with me. I don't know if you can see it. But they're not here. They're not in this photograph. They've gone. I lost my father in 2014. I lost my mother in 2019. They're gone. The moment you die, you take another birth. Within nanoseconds, you take another birth. The soul moves from one body to another body. They're gone. This is why in India, we incinerate the body. We burn the body. Because the body without the soul is nothing. It's merely matter. You dispose of it. They're gone. So if I were to hook my happiness on their being here, then I'm guaranteeing myself a life of misery. Because now they've gone. They're not coming back. So my happiness cannot be based on their presence or absence. They are different individuals. You love them with all your heart and your soul. But they're not you and you're not them. They're non-self. They're not myself, is only my soul. Therefore, if you base your happiness on the non-self, you will be unhappy. Because that non-self will not be there with you all your life. We talk of marriages. My parents had 57, 58 years of a good marriage, a solid marriage. I've been married 24 years and I hope to have another 24 years at least. But at some point, either my wife will die or I will die. There is no permanence. So if you're going to base your happiness on the presence or absence of people in your life, I guarantee you, you will be miserable. So the sense of oneness that you develop with others, my wife, my son, my sister, my friend, my father, my mother, my grandfather, the sense of oneness will bring you misery because there is no mind. Only the soul is mine. Even this body is not mine. All the relations that I have in this world are with this body, right? Through this body. But when the soul departs this body, what do you do with the body? You burn it. Or you donate it medically, that's fine. But you get rid of it because it's just matter, inert matter, a carbon compound, that's all. We know this and we're taught that, yes, you were born alone and you will die alone. But we don't quite subscribe to this. We don't really identify with this belief. Because endlessly, since the beginning of time, we have run after things that are not ours. That's not us. We have chased after non-self objects since the beginning of time. We have run after money. We've run after wealth, material goods, wife, son, family. We have dedicated our entire lives to fulfilling their needs and wants and desires. We have devoted everything to them and their happiness. Now, if I ask you to suddenly give up all attachment for them, it's weird. How can you do that? We are living beings, we are living in a family. How can we do that? Boss, no one is asking you to give up your responsibilities. All I'm saying is, give up the attachment. You fulfill all your responsibilities as well as you can with your heart and soul. I'm not asking you to not fulfill your responsibilities. Do the best that you can for them. I'm here to give. I have come here to give to others. I shall give my best to them. But don't be attached. Lessen your attachment, because that attachment will cause you misery. We have to develop a sense of jnana garbhit vairagya. Detachment that comes from wisdom, from enlightenment, from the realization that all of this, all our worldly attachments are impermanent. One cannot base your happiness on something that's not permanent. So, I'm sorry. So you must continue to fulfill your worldly duties towards family, towards friends, towards colleagues, towards humanity, towards your country, towards your city. I'm not saying you don't fulfill those duties, but your focus should be on attaining self-realization. Just change your focus. Because only the soul is permanent. Only the soul can give you pure, uninterrupted, permanent bliss. Nothing else, no one else. So every waking moment of your life, you have to focus only on the self. Otherwise, you will never be able to get rid of samsara. You will never be able to transcend transmigration. You'll remain stuck, wandering in samsara. Bhavanti tathev tathev. You'll remain wandering there and there itself. You'll never go. You'll never escape samsara. In our lives, have we not seen death? How many of us have not seen death? Everyone has seen death. We have seen illness. We've experienced illness. We have seen the breaking down of families, the dismantling of families. We have seen rich people getting poor. We've seen poor people become rich. And despite that, we live like there's no tomorrow. I mean, who has not seen death? Who has not seen illness? Who has not seen old age? Who has not seen poverty? We've all experienced these things. We've seen these things happen to people. And yet we live in such a profligate manner. We live like there's no tomorrow. And worse, we consider ourselves to be superior to other people. If, we are proud of the wealth we may have, or the status we may enjoy, or the looks we may have, or whatever external possession that we may happen to have at that point of time, we take pride in that. How silly is that? It doesn't belong to me. What am I being proud of? It's like my friend drops me off in his Range Rover. It's not mine. Why should I be proud of that? Why should I take pride in that? It's not even mine. And even if it were mine, it's not me. It's an external object. We don't know when he will die. Do any of us know that? No. We don't know when, if and when we might fall sick. I already have a cough, mind you, but I'm just saying, we don't know when that death might strike us. We don't know when we might fall sick. We don't know when we will lose our looks and our health and our fitness. We don't know when we might incur an injury or an accident. All the love that we may feel for our family members, one day that might change into hatred. You never know. There are no guarantees in life. You may rejoice in life, but suddenly something may happen that you start grieving. And yet, we take pride in these things, in having a beautiful home, in having a family that cares about you, in having close friends. You don't know when you might lose them. The home, the family, the friends, your health, your intellect, your wisdom, you might lose it anytime. And yet we're so proud of it. Most people, most of us, perhaps all of us, but definitely most of us, we waste our youth in seeking sensuous pleasures. We run after money, we run after sensual satisfaction, we run after, material pleasures. You want to own a motorbike, you want to own a car, then a nice car, a better car, a more expensive car, a large flat. You want to the most expensive watches and pens and laptops and mobile phones, the fanciest. That's the sole purpose of our existence. And when we grow a little bit older, we spend so much of our time and energy to show off how smart we are. We become trustees of temples, we become trustees of charitable institutions. We want to show the world that we are smart and that we're wealthy, and we want to decide for others. So in the youth, we run after sensual pleasures. In our old age, we run after social recognition. When will we chase the permanent happiness of the soul? We were born in true dharma, and yet we lose the opportunity to even understand it, to reflect on it. And one day we will die. That's the one certainty. Anyone who's born shall die. You know that your time is very, very limited, and yet you waste your time on other things, on irrelevant things. How then will we find happiness? And when you're older, you are weaker. Excuse me. When you're older, you're weaker. You say that in Hindi very simply. पेट में आंत नहीं, मुंह में दांत नहीं. Your digestive system is ruined. You've lost your teeth. You can barely eat. And yet you're dying to taste more and more fancy foods. You're growing older, weaker. Your memory is going. And yet, what are you running for? What are you chasing? Recognition. For what? How many people will remember you once you die? And even if people remember you after you die, how's it going to help? You're gone. You're no longer there. So it doesn't help you. So there is misery and frustration when you grow older, because you still seek the things you sought when you were young. But your body is no longer capable of enjoying those things. You see so many older people, the desires, sensual desires have not diminished an iota. It's so sad and embarrassing to see them. They're clearly not capable of accomplishing things, and yet they desire those things. It's so sad. And this is how we've been perpetuating our existences. We keep manifesting ourselves in sansar because of our desires. These are what keep you chained to sansar. No one is saying, give up worldly life. I'm not asking you to give up worldly life and go and live in a jungle. All I'm saying is, unchain yourself from this desire. Free yourself from desire. This desire is going to hurt you. You know, my Guru Jayesh Bhai, he always says that, we ask him that, Jayesh Bhai, you're a Samyak Drishti. So, do you enjoy, say you're eating good food, he practices brahmacharya, but I asked him, do you enjoy good food? He said, look, my taste buds are not dead. If there is something tasty that I eat, my taste buds tell me that it's tasty, but I'm not attached to it. He eats very simple food only once a day. He eats very simple steamed, he puts food, he soaks food, and he normally soaks lentils and stuff. He eats one meal a day. And he says, I'm very happy to eat that. But if suppose I'm out of town and I'm eating somewhere else, and they serve me something that tastes nice, I can experience the taste, but I'm not bound by it. I don't seek it, and that's not what I look for. But yes, the taste is there. So a person who has attained Samyak Drishti is not his organs are working perfectly fine. It's just that he's chosen to transcend them. He doesn't look for it. He's not bound by it. You know, as I say in English, you can own anything, but don't let anything own you. So the senses don't own him. That's the important part. So when we know that nothing in life is permanent, nothing, then why are we so bound and so attached to it? It's not permanent. I know, I'm talking about myself. I used to be so attached to cricket. I love cricket. My family is like a family tradition. I don't normally see television. I don't enjoy television. But the only time we would see television together My father, my son and I, 3 generations glued to the television was when we saw a cricket match. And I would be so upset if India lost and so overjoyed if India won. And then my favorite players are Virendra Sehwag and Rahul Dravid. And we would love it if these guys scored a century. And I would be really annoyed at Virendra Sehwag if he lost his wicket easily. And he tended to do that, mind you, he tended to do that. I would be so annoyed, I want to whack this guy. What's wrong with him? And so annoyed and binding so much karma on something that I had no control over. How Virendra Singh Sehwag bats is not in my hands. Whether India wins the match or not is not in my hands. And yet I would make it a subject of my happiness. My happiness was tied down to India's victories on the cricket field. How stupid. You're guaranteed to be unhappy most of the time. Over the years, after meeting Jayesh Bhai, I've learned about religion, about sadhana. When you become an Atmarthi, these things don't matter. If I go to someone's house, I don't see a lot of television myself. If I go to someone's house and someone's seeing a match, I'll sit and see it. India wins, well and good. India doesn't win, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. I go to people's houses to meet them, not to see a match. On my own, I will never switch on and see a match. If I may see it in the newspaper that, oh, India won, nice, very nice. India lost, too bad. No big deal either way. I'm no longer excited that there's going to be a World Cup or who wins or who loses. It's not relevant. It doesn't matter. These things will take their own course. I have nothing to do with them. They have nothing to do with me. So why should I bother? It's not me. The more attached I am, the more karmas I'm binding. The more detached I am, the less karmas I'm binding. Therefore, what should I be? Especially when I know that life is impermanent, anitya. When we keep binding karmas, where does this lead us? Into sansar, into transmigration. And this time, when I took birth, I had a lot of punyas. I was born as a human being in a Jain family, in a deeply religious, intellectual, scholarly Jain family. But what if I've exhausted my punyas? Next time, I might be born as a one-sensed being, as a blade of grass. If I'm too attached to cricket, I'll probably be born as a blade of grass in the Brabant Stadium or the Wankhede Stadium or the Lord's Stadium, but a blade of grass. What is my likelihood of attaining Samyak Darshan and Moksha in a blade of, when I'm born as a blade of grass? 0. So I'm guaranteeing myself a life of misery when I'm being attached to worldly objects. We have seen someone who could be the king of the earth, the absolute emperor, and then he commits a lot of pap. He dies and is reborn as a one-sensed being, as a blade of grass, as a tree, as a drop of water, inside a drop of water, as mud, as earth. So what is that 60, 70, 80 years of worldly happiness? How will that help him when he's reborn as a blade of grass? It won't. Realize this and focus on that which matters, because you don't want to be reborn as a blade of grass. You want to be reborn as a Samyak Drishti. You want to work on your self-realization. You want to work on your spiritual upliftment, to go up the ladder of the Gunasthan and to attain moksha. The only rebirth I want is the one that helps me go up the ladder of Gunasthan and helps me attain moksha. I don't want any other rebirth. I've had enough. We've had enough rebirths. Or every one of us was in one life born as a Chakravarti, as the universal emperor, in one life born as a king, in one life born as a great sportsman, as a great hunter, as a great film star. We've led every kind of life possible. There's nothing left. And how can you keep repeating the same thing again and again? It's like my favorite movie is Top Gun. I love Tom Cruise. And he's my favorite film star. I saw it when I was 16 or 17. That's when it was released, 1986. And he's my favorite superstar. But if you ask me to see the same movie on a loop again and again, 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, I'll go nuts. I'll go nuts. I'll go blind and I'll go nuts. And I'll start hating the movie. Because you can't do that again and again. This is a sensual pleasure. You get tired of it. But the bliss of moksha, you'll never get tired of it. It is constantly, it is uninterrupted, and is indescribable. The only time you get to feel even a tiny measure of it is when you attain Samyak Darshan. That's when you feel a certain amount of bliss, a certain calmness, a certain coolness that is so beautiful and so intense and so vibrant that you're completely alive. It may come only for a moment and may go away, but you'll never forget that moment. And that kind of bliss, raised to the nth degree of intensity and perfection, is what a Keval Jnani feels constantly, is what a Tirthankar feels constantly, is what a Siddhaji feels constantly. That bliss is what we aim for, and not bother about these impermanent pleasures of the body. Because it's not going to last. Ice cream, kulfi, I love kulfi. That day we went, I think last week, just before Parishan, we went to someone's house for dinner. Dinner for us means dinner at 6 o'clock. And they gave me kulfi in the end. It's like, wow, what lovely kulfi. But how many kulfis can you eat? Even someone like me who has a sweet tooth. 1, 2, 3. You ask me to eat 10 kulfis, I'll die, I'll puke. I can't eat 10 kulfis, Forget the physical disaster. I can't eat that many. Because sensual pleasure is always finite. You can't do it, you can't eat it every day. You get tired of it, bored of it, you start hating it. But the bliss of liberation, the bliss of self-realization is, you cannot have enough of it. Therefore, don't run after sensual pleasures. Because we've run after sensual pleasures, we've been in sansar, wandering forever and ever. So then what should you do? Very simple. You focus only and only on self-realization. Atma Prapti. Your only sadhana is towards self-realization. Nothing else. Because nothing else is important. Only Atma Sadhana is important. Only the soul is important, right? So why focus on other things? So all of us need to attain self-realization and qualify for moksha. Let's see it from another angle. When you say that, oh, but I enjoy eating ice cream, or I enjoy eating kulfi, or I enjoy seeing a Tom Cruise movie, how will you even relish those things? It'll happen through punya, right? Punya is external. It's not the soul. Will you always have the punya? No, you won't. And then what is that kind? When I say I enjoy seeing a movie or I enjoy eating kulfi, is that sukh? Is that bliss? Or is it sukha bhas? An illusion of happiness. It's elusive. It's transient. It's not true happiness. So I'm chasing things. I'm running after shadows, chasing a mirage, and losing the one thing that can guarantee me happiness. which is the soul. It's like you have a very solid stock if you invest in the share market, as most Indians do, I think. Are you going to give it up for a stock that you know is going to crash anytime soon? And you know it's going to crash. Why would you invest in that stock? Right? So when you invest in sensual pleasures, when you invest in sukha bhas, at the expense of investing in true bliss, which is the soul, then life is going to crash. And you know that even the sukha bhas that we're chasing is going to come out of what? Punya, right? But how does one generate punya? It's a very good question. How does one generate punya? Through indulging in rituals or through focusing on the soul? When you focus on the soul, punya comes automatically. It's an automatic process. You don't chase after punya. You don't do anything for punya. When you focus on the soul, punya will come. It's a byproduct. And the punya will ensure that these things come to you. It's like, I'll give you an example. I don't know how many of you are from Bombay, but Bombay is a long city. It is about 60 kilometers in length. At one end, you have Churchgate Station, South Bombay. On the other end, you've got Borivali Station. Okay. This is what, 30, 40 kilometers between the two. And in the center lies Dadar Station. So let's just assume I'll assign qualities to each station. Churchgate Station is where you are right now at 0. And Borivali Station to the north is 10. And in between is Dadar, which is 5. Okay. Now let's assign values to this. Churchgate is where you are. You're at 0. Dadar is 5. This is worldly happiness. And Borivali is 10, which is moksha, liberation, eternal happiness. So your goal should never be Dadar. It should always be Borivali. Because and when you're chasing eternal happiness, when you're working towards eternal happiness, worldly happiness will occur on its own automatically. Because when you go from Churchgate to Borivali, Dadar is invariably on the way. It will fall in the way. There is no other way. Whether you go by train or by car or by motorcycle, or you walk, or you go through a helicopter, you're crossing Dadar. So worldly happiness is a byproduct. Don't make it your main aim in life. When you seek eternal bliss, when you seek liberation, worldly happiness will occur on its own. It's a byproduct. It's never not going to happen. It will happen on its own. Don't chase it. And don't focus your life on it. If you focus your life on that, you lose the picture. You lose the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is liberation. There's this beautiful shloka in the Ishtopdesh where they say, Acharya Pujyapada's Ishtopdesh, where he says that if you are capable of carrying 50 kilos on your head and walking 10 kilometers, why can't you carry 5 grams on your head and walk 100 meters? Of course you can. So that 5 grams on your head and 100 meters is worldly happiness. 50 kilos on your head and 10 kilometers is eternal happiness, moksha. So when you are seeking moksha, worldly happiness will occur on its own. Don't seek that. Don't let that be the focus of your existence, because then you're diminishing your importance and you're losing your chance. So don't waste your time on worldly pursuits. Do enough that you need to do. I'm not saying you give up your job and sit at home. You fulfill your duties, but your primary focus should be the soul, because that's the most important thing. Attain yourself, know yourself, and be yourself. That's the most important thing. And myself means the true me. Not this name, not this body, not these clothes, not this physical manifestation, but the real me that lies beneath the physical manifestation. Know that person. That's who you are. And when you know that person, you will attain self-realization. We have all of us who are living in samsara, we have certain duties. Please fulfill those duties. Don't give up on anything. Fulfill all your worldly duties. Fulfill all your obligations. But change your focus. Your focus should be fulfilling the obligation to yourself. That is attaining self-realization, samyak darshan, atmanubhuti. And once you make that your focus, the other things fall in place. So my advice, all of you, to myself as well, I am no different. We are all the same. We are all in the same boat. All of us should make sure that the first and foremost thing we do is focus on self-realization. Number one, by contemplating on the impermanence of worldly objects, of everything that is non-self, how impermanent and transient it is. Focus on that. Reflect on it. When we do prayers, we must take time out to reflect on the realities of life. Meditation, a lot is said about meditation and various forms of meditation, and all sorts of fancy gurus have sprung up with their fancy kinds of meditation and meditation retreats and all of those things. The one thing I ask these people, anyone, is you have developed a form of meditation, great. It works well for you when you're in the retreat. Does it work well for you when you come back? Or are you back to square one? Meditate on that which is with you wherever you are, which is your soul. Focus on the soul. All external techniques are focusing on external things, on your breath, on an object. You look at something and stare at it for 10 minutes. It's a non-self object. Your breath is not you. You focus only on your soul and nothing else, on your eternal self. The breath will go when the body goes, right? It's not yours. But your soul is yours. Focus on the soul. Focus on that which is eternal. Don't waste your time on that which is transient. Fulfill your duty. If you've seen government offices in Bombay, in India, by just Bombay, you've seen how bureaucrats work. If the office works from 10 to 5, the bureaucrat will come at 10:30 and he'll leave at 4:30. And 4 o'clock itself, he starts packing his bags, puts off his pen, switches off his computer, I have to go. So in a working day of 10 to 5, he's barely there from 10:30 to 4:30. In between, he has a long 1-hour lunch break and a half an hour tea break. He's detached. He's not attached to the office work. He's there because he needs to be there. That's how we should be with samsara. Do your duties. Don't be lazy. No escapism. Do your duties with samsara. Fulfill all your obligations. Your personal obligations, your professional obligations, fulfill them. But that's not your focus. Your real life begins when you're back. When you focus on the self. So take time out. All of us should take time out. Shape your lifestyle in such a manner that you have enough time for swadhyay, satsang, contemplation. It's most important to focus on the self and to take time out every day. In Jainism, we call it samayik, we call it pratikraman, we call it prayer, we call it all of these things. Doesn't matter what you call it. Take time out to reflect on yourself, to reflect on the soul. Focus on the self. Your focus should be unwaveringly on the self. Our next bhavna is Asharan bhavna, which means that there is no shelter. I'll take this bhavna tomorrow. Meanwhile, focus on impermanence, the impermanence of external factors, the impermanence of anything that we hold dear, whether it is our family, our possessions, our country, all of the external things that we hold dear are impermanent. So that should never be the reason for our happiness. It cannot be. So don't focus on that. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take them. Any of you, any questions?
You can unmute yourself, and if you have any question, you can ask.
Thank you. If not, I will, if there are no questions, I will try to give you some hints and pointers then. Any questions? There don't seem to be questions, so I'll give you some pointers that my guru has taught me, and they make sense to me. You know, when you say that, oh, what do I do? How does one contemplate? How do you develop the habit of contemplating? These are the pointers that Jayesh Bhai has given to me. I'm going to share them with you. Number one, study the Shastras, study the scriptures, and with the only aim of uplifting the soul. Study the scriptures, read the scriptures with the only purpose, with one purpose, not to translate, not to do proofreading, merely to uplift the soul. Number one, study the scriptures. Number two, contemplate upon the soul. Number three, contemplate upon Loka, the universe, which is nothing but a congregation and a collection of the six dravyas. Jiva, Jeev, Dharma, Dharam, Akash and Kal. Contemplate on the 9 tattvas. Jiva, Jeev, Asra, Ban, Sambar, Nijra, Paap, Punya. All of these things, contemplate on the 6 dravya and the 9 tattva. And reflect upon the consequences of karmas. Whatever karma you do, reflect on it. Every karma you do will have a consequence. It will have a bearing on your life. All that you do through mind, speech, and body, all that you do, you get done, and that you aid and abet. All of it will have consequences. Contemplate on that. And most importantly, meditate upon the precepts and teachings of the Bhagwan. Bhagwan has taught us how to lead our lives. Reflect on that, because that's the only thing that will save you from transmigration. The Tirthankars are absolutely, perfectly omniscient. They are flawless, infallible. They have given us teachings which are infallible, flawless. When you contemplate on those teachings, you are ensuring a future of happiness. So focus on those teachings, think on them. Man is a thinking creature. So think. What you think, you shall manifest. So start thinking, start manifesting. That's the only thing you can do. My alarm tells me that it's 8:30. It's time. Is there a question? Okay. So it's time today. We'll come back tomorrow.
No questions.
Thank you so much for being such a wonderful audience.
Thank you, Manish bhai, for your session. And we still have 3 more days to learn something new from you about this universal law. Thank you.
Thank you. Jai Jinendra.
Jai Hind.